Wow, if that just doesn't make you want to travel again, I don't know what will. That I couldn't find a more perfect intro to this segment. So, really glad that you're with us. I'm Gabriella from True Marketing, and I am so excited today because this is another one of those chances and those opportunities we'd like to give you to ask a country anything. We're all kind of swimming in these waters here, and a lot of destination information continues to be conflicting and unclear sometimes. So we love to bring on a handful of destinations and the representatives from their tourism boards to be able to share with you what is happening on the ground, whether they are open or not, or pending and all sorts of things. So this is kind of our version of a nice roundup to be able to give you answers to the questions that you have as bookings are starting to flow, which is wonderful. So I'm going to just go around the room. I'm going to introduce very quickly who we have with us today. It's a really nice mix, very eclectic as we usually do. So we have Idrisia Thestrup, who is representing Visit Greenland. She's sitting in Denmark at the moment, but she proudly represents Greenland, and we're eager to dive into that a little bit. We have Cecilia Berrocal from Peru, who's coming to us from Lima. She's sitting in Peru at the moment. We've also got Hayden Fitzpatrick representing Tourism New Zealand. Say hello. And wonderfully, not had a chance to talk much about Estonia lately, but we see it popping up on the radar. We have Anya Nast, who's coming from the Estonian Tourist Board, piping in on site in country. So we're happy to have everybody here. So we're going to dive into it and just kind of ask some questions on behalf of a lot of our agents that are curious what's happening. I'm going to start with Idrisia because Greenland, I think what has happened with COVID is that people are no longer wanting to wait to implement their bucket list items. And Greenland is always one of those places that people kind of, it's either Greenland or Antarctica comes up like one of those places I just have to see, but in a lifetime. So tell us what the situation is on the ground, because it is one of those wide open spaces that people are craving. So what's happening with travel? And I mean, it was challenging to travel there before. So, you really really have to be committed. So tell us a little bit about what's happening there. Are you open? Are you not? And what's the immediate future, I guess, for Greenland?
Well, hello everyone. I think Greenland is one of the rare countries where Corona doesn't exist. We have no cases of COVID-19 at the moment. And the entire year we had 34 mild cases. Everybody is fine, but it's also due to a very restrictive travel regulation. At the moment, the country just reopened for 600 passengers a week, which means before that, you could only travel to Greenland if you had a valid reason to travel to Greenland. Now it's reopened, and we hope to see travelers back. We still have quarantine 5 days, so you need to have negative test before you travel to Greenland, and then we have a 5-day quarantine and then a retest. But once you are in Greenland, life is as it used to be everywhere else. No masks, no social distancing, restaurants are open, people are just living their lives normally.
That is amazing to hear. I think we have not had an answer like that from anybody so far. That is the first time I have heard something like that. So that's brilliant. Now, Cecilia, your destination has been open, and Peru is not tied to any sort of union or association. So you guys could have done what you wanted, which was great. How long has Peru been open, and what has changed as far as arrivals, for the traveler who is coming in now? Is there quarantine, or talk to us a little bit about how things are for the traveler now?
Yeah, well, thank you, Gabriela. Well, actually, we have some restrictions. The borders are open, like 2 or 3 months ago, and we have some restrictions for some travelers who want to come to Peru. First of all, if they want to travel to Peru, travelers must take a negative PCR test 72 hours before their flight or before their check-in. And once they arrive to Peru, if they want to avoid our 14 quarantine that we have right now in Peru, you can avoid it if you take an antigen test in the same international airport. So if the antigen test results is negative, you can avoid this quarantine. And actually, well, we have some some mandatory restrictions. Like, for example, for us, it is mandatory to use a mask. And in some places, like, you know, some closed places, like some restaurants or malls, we have to use, besides the mask, we have to use some facial shields.
Okay, that's helpful, but you are open, and that's excellent. I'm going to totally pivot to Hayden, who's probably got the toughest part to answer here. You're a destination that sort of decided early on that this was going to be an extended period of time, that you were going to not yet reopen for travel. I know a lot of people have questions about New Zealand. Tell us a little bit about where you stand. It's been a while. It's been a year and a couple of months. What's the vision, I guess, at this stage, or do you have any estimations? And also, how is life on the ground in New Zealand, since you have done a really good job of managing this crisis for your citizens?
Yeah, thanks, Gabby. Yeah, it's a really good question. We did take a very bold response. Being an island nation down there in the South Pacific, we were able to do that maybe more easily than some very early on. And all of that decision making was around the health and safety of New Zealanders, and that continues to be the case. With regards to, I think the most exciting news of late is that as of the 19th of April, we opened what we're calling a travel safe zone or travel bubble with Australia. And what that means is that Australians and New Zealanders can travel freely between each of the destinations. Outside of that, in the Cook Islands bubble opening on the 17th of May, at the moment, it's just repatriating New Zealanders that can go back into the country, and they must go through that mandatory 14-day quarantine process. This means that we got a really good hold on COVID very early on. New Zealanders, not dissimilarly to their Greenland update, have been able to live a relatively normal existence. There's been months now with no new community cases, and as such, no social distancing, no masks, and no measures in place. And that, like I said, the safety and security of New Zealanders is at the forefront of that decision making. So we're just amplifying a vaccine rollout now to ensure that the health and safety is at the front. And as we open to international visitors, we'll look at what some of those rules and regulations are.
I know people are eager to travel. It's for Americans, definitely also one of those bucket list destinations. Now, for Anya, you are tied to the EU. So I know that has been a lot of question, back and forth. Is everybody going to do this at once and not? And we have seen some European destinations decide to open up. What's the status with Estonia? Where do you guys stand? And do you expect to receive guests from the US this summer?
Hi everyone, thanks Gabby for asking. Well, it is as it is. I mean, tourist board and the ministry and all are just really trying to figure out how to make this digital vaccination pass working faster. Because actually, as of the end of April, we have created a digital pass that now you can download from your digital health history and have it on your mobile phone, like you would have a boarding pass with a QR code, and you can show it and it shows if you've been vaccinated or not. Which is still lacking is, of course, the negative test to be added there, or if you have had COVID, and so all of the information stored in one place. So now we're really working on this digital solution so that we can check people who are coming in and, of course, to open borders to more countries. Starting this week, we already opened restaurant terraces. Of course, it started raining right away, but that's how life is here. There is no such thing as bad weather. We know here it's such thing as bad clothing or inappropriate clothing. So now we have appropriate clothing for every weather. Yeah, so really looking forward for Europe to come together and have something that works for all EU countries, so that travelers from US can not only go to France or Italy, but also stop over and see Estonia.
No, we're all looking very forward to that. I'm going to switch to kind of a topic that's very important to people is how destinations are going to be traveled moving forward, how things may change. Whereas certain destinations had a lot of group travel, people might not want to be traveling with people together. There's kind of an increase in exclusivity demands for that kind of stuff. For Greenland, you are very conscious of the environment anyway. Everything is kind of centered around conserving the natural state. So I guess the lack of visitors has probably been really good for that, maintaining that balance. But how do you see travel moving forward? Greenland has a lot of cruise capacity tied to it. So how do you kind of see how best people can explore it moving forward? Do you see the cruises coming back, or would it be more land-based?
This year we know that the restrictions for cruise are such that it won't be possible. At the moment, the country, Greenland, only allows tiny expedition cruise up to 50 pax. That's where we stand at the moment. We don't know what's going to happen to bigger cruise ships, but our government and Visit Greenland are working together to create a safe framework. It's important to understand that Greenland is one of those very vulnerable places. We only have 56,000 people. So an epidemic such COVID-19 has even higher impact for tiny indigenous communities in the high Arctic than anywhere else because of the geographical situation where we are. But when we look forward and we look at the years to come, and even in the after COVID-19 pandemics, we would like to see more expedition cruise ships coming to Greenland, as their behavior is very close to land-based tourism or compared to big cruise ships just coming for a few hours in our destination. I think when you have, like Greenland has, a sustainable development as the backbone of our strategy, it is our duty to make sure that we think on a long-term perspective about the well-being of our local populations first and foremost. If our locals feel good about their country, feel good, it's our home. So we want to be able to welcome in our home the right type of tourist, not saying that all tourists are not the right type, but we see it as our home. Therefore, we want to be very cautious and very happy to welcome the people or our guests who will take care of our country the same way as we do.
That's a beautiful answer. I love the way that you put that, welcoming us into your home. And I saw, on a similar note, we've gotten a lot of questions, especially for Sicilia and Peru. You have Machu Picchu and you have a major monuments, that are World Heritage sites and need to be preserved. Has this reset almost been a little bit good for those types of places, that just so that they don't run the risk of being over traveled? And I know that you put some limitations into places like that. Will that continue to sort of preserve the nature of some of these very historical sites?
Yeah, actually, I think that this is a good time to visit, too, because it's not so crowded. It is a good time. But actually, Peru has a vast places, vast destinations for the outdoors activity. That we have the Andes mountain range, we have the Amazon rainforest, and we have different places, isolated places to visit and to go there without any problem. And also, we have some limited access to our most important attractions, like, for example, Machu Picchu. Machu Picchu is being reopened like 2 months ago. And we maintain these restrictions, like, for example, the limited access. Right now, we are access only 897 travelers per day. And these mass get in groups of 8, included a tour guide. And we have some restrictions, like, for example, these groups must have a social distance of 20 meters by themselves. And also, it is mandatory the use of masks and face shields. And I think that and also continue, you know, to divide the citadel in different tours. I think we have like 2 different tours where you can visit the citadel. And yeah, we'll still continue these restrictions until you know, we go back to the normal. You know, but actually also I want to remark that Peru has the safety travel stamps, and that includes our most important attractions, like for example Cusco, Machu Picchu Valley, our most important northern beaches in Peru. And well, welcome to all our travelers if they want to visit right now Peru.
Fantastic. And then in New Zealand, I think you'll have the longest time to prepare to welcome guests back. So I guess, what have hotels been doing in the meantime to think about the future? And what do you feel is sort of going to trend now for New Zealand? Will it be a lot of like self-drive, self-explorations versus group trips? Or what are you working on, I guess, moving forward as far as your marketing messaging, that, you know, where people can get the most out of it while, you know, kind of feeling secure in their safe bubble?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think we're yet to see some of that, but I think we can try and shape that with our messaging, both to consumers and via the trade as well. And even in a pre-pandemic world, we were talking about seasonality and regionality and taking some of those pressures off places. I think for our New Zealand supplier partners, as we speak, they're actually having what would ordinarily be our largest travel trade event called Trends in Christchurch. And instead, they're using that as a think tank situation to ensure that there is continuity between all of our New Zealand suppliers and industry with their messaging, their safety protocols, and everything moving forward. And it gives us a really unique chance to kind of reimagine tourism as well, ensuring, not dissimilarly to what Greenland said, that it is our home, these are our people, that tourism is giving back more than it takes away, and that we continue to enrich New Zealand. And we do that in multiple ways. We do that across nature, we do that across economy, we do that across society, and we do that with our unique Māori culture as well. And so this think tank or event that's happening at the moment will ensure that those things are at the forefront, and that we really get to better understand our seasonality, regionality, and that market mix when different countries are coming into New Zealand, how they travel differently, and ensure that our infrastructure is set up to support that really well, and that it makes it a better place for New Zealanders through that growth of international tourism. So that's the focus at present, and I think some of those trends and other things will come a little bit later, but I think people will start to choose those bucket list destinations and choose to stay longer and see more. So that will help to benefit our regions as well, and we'll continue to message to support that.
I agree with you on the longer stays. As I mentioned before, I think people are, if they're going to take the time to book these trips, they're going to stay longer and they're going to do more meaningful things. And for Anya, as a European, you've got a very happening European buzzing capital in your country, one of those places where people want to go for a crazy long weekend or further. But I think that we're going to see a trend of people backing away from big cities. I mean, I think that you'll see far less crowds in places like Tallinn, I would imagine. But are you going to be pushing more for people to explore beyond the cities and sort of see more of the more remote places in Estonia?
Well, before COVID, actually, when we were talking about Tallinn, for us, it was always our unique selling point that you still get all of their, comfortableness and whatever you wish for from the city break. But when you're talking Tallinn, then there's rarely crowds really, because, there's space for everyone, and being not maybe on everybody's radar gives us actually the advantage, because for the ones who actually arrive here, they realize that the history and the culture that Estonia holds. I was just thinking that, goodness, we have survived medieval ages and Russian times and Swedish times and Polish times and German times, and we're still here. So I'm pretty sure we will definitely survive COVID times as well. And for us, Tallinn is still, I think, a must visit. I just wish people have more time than just hop off the cruise ship, and hopefully they will do now. But of course, our easily accessible nature and being the country with the longest, coastal area from the Baltic Sea, it gives a lot of options to to really de-stress, to lose yourself in a moment, and on top of this history and nature, just enjoy amazing food. So I'm really positive somehow that it will all be back to normal pretty soon.
Well, that's excellent. I think people are looking for less crowded cities, less crowded places to spend time. And I'm going to kind of wrap up very quickly. Well, you can take as long as you want for this one because it's hard. But I'm going to go around the room, and I want people to understand what is so special and hidden and unique about your destinations that they should not miss. I don't want you to answer with the typical things that people might know from an internet site or a guidebook, but I'd love to know, maybe in your own words, what's a perfect couple of days in your destination. So share what you find, I guess, from the heart is so special. I'm going to start backwards this time. All right. I'll continue with Anya, and you can tell me about all of your hidden favorites, or tell the audience rather, in Estonia that you should not miss besides the obvious.
Great. Well, it's an easy one, really, because I guess I am the biggest fan of Estonia, and we have just had an amazing on-live event that we call it. It was mixed of being on stage and being online and all. So I think that actually us here in Estonia, we're going to compete with our visitors' last really good experience. I mean, after they return, we will have to top it off and offer something amazing to them. But I'm thinking that Estonia is definitely a place to put on the bucket list for people to visit, is because, well, you do not realize what Estonia really is until you get here. You've heard this and that, you've heard maybe about our neighbors and so on, but what you see is actually something totally unique, in a sense that you'll find digital solutions here, which were born in the medieval streets of Old Tallinn. You will go to the restaurant and you actually know that everything you eat here has a story to tell, or the chef knows exactly where it came from. And our nature, it's different from what you used to have. For example, we talk a lot about our wetlands or bogs, and people always look at me like I'm a crazy person. Why are you talking about wetlands? But only because wetlands are normally not accessible. You cannot go there. But throughout the whole country, we have built amazing wooden paths, different kinds, so you can actually go and explore it. And once you're there, you realize that it's a totally different world. And all those small, special things put together will give you this understanding of country. We are tending to say that Estonia, it's about time. You can, if you're a culture nomad, you can have a quick culture fix or stay longer and see our deepest roots. You know, we are the singing nation, our choirs, and the story that our singing has to tell. And if you're a flavor seeker, then you will definitely find something amazing here. I mean, we say that fast food in Estonia actually comes as fast as it grows. And regarding nature nomad, well, that will be just perfect for you. So come visit us soon.
Well, I am transfixed. You're a small country with an enormous punch. Now, New Zealand there's a lot to choose from. You've got regions, you've got islands. What are you going to do? I mean, what's the best place for someone to start? You know, I mean, is it north? Is it south? Is it a mix? Or tell us about some of your favorites and the hidden gems that people might not be aware of yet.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of all of those things that you've just touched on. What people go to New Zealand with this expectation, right? We've got these beautiful changeable landscapes, and that's what people are expecting. We've got world-class food and wine, which is getting a great name for itself. But I think the one thing they're not expecting, and the one thing all these people who have been sitting at home pent up, maybe they've postponed a New Zealand trip since borders closed, and they're holding on to that because we are a bucket list destination and they want to look forward to what New Zealand has to offer. But for me, a lot of it is that intrinsic stuff that we can't put in a brochure or show you an image of. And a lot of that has to do with what we call a Māori concept, which is manakitanga. And this is this concept of these warm, welcoming New Zealanders that want to show you their home, that want to share your home, that if you're driving from A to B, you might stop at a favorite little cafe that's been recommended from the accommodation provider the night before, and yet the patron of the cafe is going to show you their favorite fishing spot, the great bushwalk, where you should stop to get some fresh produce onto the side of the road, and some other wonderful things to do between your next destination. And that's that manaakitanga. It's that real care that New Zealanders have for people and for place. And we want to ensure that we get that conscious, resilient traveller coming back and really looking to give back more than they take away, have a great understanding in advance how they can do that, take our Tiaki promise, which gives them an opportunity to ensure that they tread lighter, they travel with an open heart and an open mind, and they come back really feeling like they've left a part of themselves in New Zealand, that whenever they see New Zealand referenced anywhere in the world, that they're going to relate back to that time they spent there, and they're going to pass it on to friends, family, next generations about how special it is. And we've got a really unique role as New Zealanders to ensure that it stays special. But as far as an experience, we recently put in what's called the Te Araroa Trail. And this is a multi-use hike and biking trail that goes the whole length of the country. So from the top of the south to the bottom of the north. And whether or not they're doing the whole part, which will be a great post-COVID escape, or just little sections that will really ensure you get off that beaten track, you get to meet those unique New Zealanders, and you're left with that taste of manaakitanga. So we look forward to welcoming you back as and when we can. But until then, we have to keep the brand alive in the hearts and minds and ensure that we stay relevant and memorable for advisors and their clients.
Well, I felt that explanation in my heart. I know what you mean, just getting local. And travel is nothing if you're not getting out, talking to people, tasting the food, smelling the smells, and being open to new experiences that are unplanned. Cecilia, you got a big place to deal with there. What would you select for the first-time traveler in Peru that, beyond the obvious, that they absolutely should do?
Well, actually, I think it's very difficult, but you need to choose a destination. Well, everybody, if they visit Peru for the first time, everybody wants to visit our most important highlight, which is Machu Picchu. But I want to remark that Peru is more than Machu Picchu. We are more than that. Actually, Machu Picchu is one of our most highlights and one of the 7 world's wonders in the world. However, we have an amazing vast destination. We have the Amazon rainforest. We have beautiful lodges and experiences that you can find there, and also have a beautiful different kind of treks to do in the highlands of Peru, or even in the Amazon rainforest. And I think that besides the beautiful vast destinations that we have in Peru, that you can combine very well with Machu Picchu and Cusco, also I think that one of our best assets is our people. You will find in every corner of Peru, you will find beautiful towns with people that can give you her story about their traditions, about their food, and you can, I think, you can enrich yourself learning about all this fascinating culture that we have in Peru. And also, well, besides this, I think that if you want to go to Peru, you must try our amazing culinary experiences, because Peru is one of the best culinary destinations in Latin America. So you must try it, and you will like it. And well, I think that it is very cool to combine in one trip all of our amazing places that we have in the coast, in the highlands, and also in the Amazon rainforest. So we want to visit our country.
Okay, Juicy, we're going to wrap up with Greenland. Where does one start? And where should they finish up?
Oh. Difficult to come last after so many great examples, so many great destinations one has to visit. Little story. I'm French, and I went on vacation to Greenland in 2017. Just what was supposed to be 1 week has now turned into my work, my life, my passion and vocation. That's what Greenland does to you. You oftentimes go to Greenland for the big nature experience, because we have this huge country at the top of the world that people perhaps see when they fly between the US or North America and Europe. And there's this vast country just there, covered 80% with ice and tiny, tiny population. And we have so much to offer, from the farms in the south to the gigantic icebergs in the north, a capital with only less than 18,000 people. So when you walk the street, people smile at you, they talk with you, and they are so warm and welcoming. They want to share their country. They love their country. They want you to go back home feeling the love they have for their country, that it becomes some of your love for that country. And you leave just the same way, not just once in a lifetime, but hope, dream, and think about going back.
Well, you are all on my list, so I cannot wait. I've been to a few of your countries, some not, but they're all on my plan. So thank you so much. This has been really enlightening, with just the key points, and also just giving us an overview of what is happening on the ground. Can't thank you enough. And we will see all of our advisors next time and our next edition of the Vanguard Destination Spotlight. All right. Thanks so much. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, all.
Bye-bye.